like to talk about the 4-year budget. You have the opportunity now to set the next full term and then some of tax increases. You just went through a process getting it down to 5%. You know that the MPI plus growth projections are at or around there for the next foreseeable future. Will that remain your target, or do you want to see, or with this ability to craft your second longer range budget, do you want to try to reshape things and get that much lower?
Well, that really is the work that we're going to be doing over the next 6 months with council and with the community's input on this. Our zero-based budget review process has not yet yielded great numbers. We've gotten some efficiencies, $150 million in the last cycle. But we really do have to come to terms with how we're going to deliver services better and more efficiently. And I'm still a big fan of the zero-based budget review process, but more optimistic than real at this point. So as we go through roads and parks, we'll get some sense on whether we can reinvent stuff. But I think we always have to do that with the context that 2/3 of Calgarians say they get good value for their tax dollar, that Calgarians really value the services that they get. And we can't live in a world where we're totally scared of actually paying for those services.
Does that mean that 5% you're comfortable with 5% being the norm?
We'll have to see what comes out of the budget process. That's why we do it. And I wouldn't want to presuppose the answers to that. But I will start out by saying, look, we got to pay for stuff and we got to provide people with services they need. Now, of course, the other problem, as you well know, is that we haven't made any headway yet on fundamental tax reform. And that's really the issue we have here, is that 5%, as you know, is a false number because we do a revenue neutral adjustment every year. So it's not 5% on 5% on 5% because the tax rate gets brought down most years. So we have to rethink that and whether that still makes sense. And further to that, the conversation around the province with the city charter really needs to talk about long-term sources of funding for cities that are not the property tax. And if any of those come in place, which is very possible over the next 4 years, then we can't use the tools of the past to project our property taxes forward.
You actually you have some confidence that the tools will shift over the next 4 years?
Something's going to happen. I don't know what that something will be.
You think so?
Something will happen.
Is that something has to happen, or do you actually think that the government's going to make some changes to fundamentally change how cities are financed?
Well, something has to happen. The longer we put this off, the more we have bigger problems in our community, and I think the provincial government understands that. Now, the realities of provincial politics being what they are, the timing of the next provincial election, the personalities we have in cabinet, all of these things could change this or stop it. But something needs to happen at some point, and the further we delay the decisions, the more difficult the decisions will be.
Do you feel like you're acting with it? Do you feel like, I mean, obviously you've changed, there's a new municipal affairs minister. But do you feel that the premier and the cabinet is reacting to crises, or do they actually have that ability to plan ahead confidently and look at tax tools without worrying about the election or worrying about the wild rose on their shoulders?
Well, no, I don't have that confidence, and no knock on the province. But we've created a provincial political environment that makes life very difficult. That said, remember that the wild rose were the ones who were proposing new revenue tools for the cities in the last election. And, well, I shouldn't say new tools, but new revenue sharing for the cities in the last election. So I think all the political parties have agreed that something needs to be done, and I hope we'll be able to depoliticize it. Of course, there's going to be people who jump up and down and go, the mayor's just greedy and wants new taxes. But as politicians, we have to ignore those fringe elements and focus on what's right for the community. Now, I've had the new minister and I have had our first meeting, and it was excellent. And I think he really understands the issues before him in a way that is different than in the past. And the conversations I've had with other ministers since the municipal elections actually have been of a very different tone around the need for them to think about investing in the city of Calgary. Now, maybe this is because the political math has changed, I don't know. But it has been quite markedly different over the last few months with the premier and with other ministers, and I hope that that's something that we'll hang on to.
Do you think that the premier has acted differently since the flood? I mean, do you think
Well,
I mean,
no,
again, she has
what I'm-
every now you're going to be, this spring will be 2 years away from election. Next year will be 1 year away from election. Do you have a premier in Edmonton who is able to act in the city's best interest, or is she stuck on the party's best interest and saving her own hide?
I mean, look, I'm not going to speculate. I'm not a party politician for a reason. That stuff's too complicated for me to try and figure out. But I can tell you that the conversations I've had with her since my election have been very much around how the province and Calgary can work together to build a better community. And it's a subtle but marked difference than conversations we've had in the past.